Part 2.
All right. So, what I generally say to people is what I normally find with people is that they run away from themselves. And, they're afraid in confronting their inner, I'll use demons as a lack of a better word. But introspection and self-awareness, definitely something that I always encourage with people is that, what? As much as we're chatting here, Pali, and I'm just kind of reflecting in terms of how we grew up. I mean, loving families involved and all of that. And we might not overtly think about what traumas did we go through, but sometimes it's the most smallest of things that we go through that really deeply impact us. And because we never take that step back to kind of just introspect and reflect, then we aren't able to identify it unless people obviously go to therapy. But now these are obviously tips and tools that people can try it at home, where I say, get a journal, sit down and actually just note down just some of the things that you can remember from way back when in your childhood, whether it was the present, but or rather the physically present parent, for instance, but they were emotionally unavailable. Whether you felt disregarded in some way, shape or form, in your upbringing or even in the environment, school environments, relationships, and all those type of things. But note down some of the things that you can remember that deeply did hurt you or that you feel like there was a shift at that particular time. Because once you're able to now acknowledge that or identify those things, then you can work towards them. Because people normally have a blanket approach. They're like, well, let's just try this and then just see what happens. But if you don't know, like you said earlier on, the root cause, go source out that root. And it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people, and people do try and avoid it. But, like my therapist beautifully said to me is that, acquaint the uncomfortable, get comfortable in the uncomfortable, befriend your guilt. If there's guilt around certain things, maybe I deserve this, maybe I shouldn't have done this. No, you know that you didn't deserve it and you know that it wasn't okay. And once you start kind of identifying those things and unpacking them and actually acknowledging self-acknowledgement, in terms of how you were impacted, it really just starts that process slowly but surely. So something as simple as literally getting a pen and paper, sitting with self and saying, now I'm going to dig deep and actually just really look at some of the things that shifted and changed my perception of, relationships, men, women, affection. What does that look like for me? What is my definition of someone loving me? What does that look like? Can I receive that? So because some people are readily kind of available to give that to other people, but receiving it is very uncomfortable because of our own past traumas.
Come on.
Our walls being high up as well. Some people are not aware that they've got these high walls. And again, it's a natural kind of defense mechanism for us to try, it's self-preservation as we call it in psychology, where you try and preserve self. So you just try and put up those fences and those walls and all sorts of things. But on the outside, you seem like a very open and available person, but you're not available to self. Therefore, you cannot be available to the next person. And one thing that I like saying to people is that you can only meet someone as deeply as you've met yourself. So if we're out here really wanting these 100% consistent people, we need to ask ourselves, am I a 100% consistent person to myself? We cannot expect things from other people that we're not giving to ourselves innately, within the relationship that we have with ourselves. And that's really as simple and basic as it is sit down, introspect, be self-aware, be aware of where some of your reactions are coming from. And if you are upset, everyone is allowed to be upset, heartbroken, sad. Identify where is that coming from. Is it coming from that person's actual behavior, or did it leave you triggered because of something that you have been through? Because then we end up projecting a lot of that on other people. And like I said, then we end up just bleeding all over other people. And 100%. Before you hop into your next relationship and getting to know people, just identify what your stuff is. Because once your stuff starts flaring up and your partner tells you that actually that's your stuff, then we avoid the defense mechanism of being like quite defensive. And then we're going, actually, you're right. That is my stuff. And what you said there just left me triggered. So I'm actually not upset at you, but you've just taken me back and I've just regressed to my 14-year-old self that had experienced 1, 2, and 3. And we can, we honestly can get that connected, deeply connected with self. It's just people are afraid in putting in the work. And I always encouraging people like, put in the work, you will reap the rewards of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I can just add one thing, I think you ended that off so nicely, but I think that people will be able to do that also when they are supported in that. When someone comes to you and says, I know this wasn't your intention, but it left me triggered because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Receive that with love.
Yes.
Respond to that with love.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think in a lot of spaces, we're afraid to say that to a person, you know, because a lot of the time it's used against you.
Yes.
A lot of the time it's not met with love. A lot of the time when you reveal your shame to someone else, they use the very shame to basically put you under their thumb.
100%.
You know, so I think just as much as you're saying that we should do that and we should express, also I just think that human beings also need to learn to receive things differently. You know, I always hop on and on about love, man. You know, and really if we responded and we communicated on the basis of love a lot more, we'd be better able to have conversations that people like to call difficult.
100%.
We're not that complex.
No, honestly, thank you.
We're not that complex.
Thank you, my
we're
friend.
Not that complex.
I always say to people, I'm like, guys, I don't think we're that complex. I think we add on to the complexities,
Absolutely.
But we're really not that complex. And I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
Be able to receive, I think, support through that as well. And just being able to be in the other person, just recognize, you know, again, if you also have met yourself deeply, be able to recognize that, you know what, this person is struggling a bit there. How do I aid that process, especially if I love that person, to kind of get to a point of healing? It's not your responsibility, but how do you contribute into that journey as well? Yeah.
Okay. I really wish I had more time with you, but I don't. Thank you so much, boys.
Thank you.
I find that every time I interact with you, it's positive, it's building. There's something that I learn. And I just want to say I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, man.
I appreciate you, and I love you. And you gonna find him. Actually, he gonna find you.
Find me.
Because women were always supposed to be found. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my queen.
Next up, we will be speaking to a lady called Nomphumelelo Shanbangu. For the other segment, let's take a little break and we will be right back.
Your media, where you are.
And we are back. So as I said, next up we will be speaking to Nomphumelelo Shanbangu, who I refer to as Mpome for the segment
The Others.
The Others. Hello, Mpome.
Boitumelo, Pali, how are you?
I'm good, and you, my darling?
I'm good, thank you.
You're going to have to forgive me for I keep muting my mics, guys. You're going to need to forgive me because this system is new to me. So I'm going to need to introduce you again because I was muted the entire time that I was introducing you. So we have Nomphumelelo Shanbangu for the segment that is called The Others. Thank you so much for joining us, Mpome. Mpome is joining us on the line. She's in Durban right now. And I just felt like her story was really, really, really interesting, inspiring, different. And that's what our other segment is about. Mpome, firstly, just let everyone know who you are, how we met. Who are you? Who are you? Who is Mpome?
Sure, such a difficult question, this thing, but hey, we have to answer. I think of myself as a child of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a lover. I'm just here being, you know, so that's who I am. Yeah.
Okay, and as a mother, how many children do you have?
I got two little ones.
2 little ones. Okay, we're not hearing you very clearly. I'm not sure if you're on headphones or if you can move around a little bit. I'd like us to be able to hear you clearly.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm moving around. I'm on headphones.
Okay, yeah. I think so. I think that's a little bit better. So Mpome, the reason I wanted us to speak to you is because you had told me about you had told, we were speaking the other day, we caught up after so many years, and you were telling me about your schooling situation with your children. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so guys, a couple of years ago, to be exact, about 7 years ago, I began a homeschooling journey with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, basically, before we had our daughters, we spoke about schooling and such things. And one of the things that came up with my partner at the time was that he wanted to venture into homeschooling. So I was like, yeah, it sounded like such a great vibe. I started doing research on it. I met a couple of families, investigated how we were going to go about doing this. And then fast forward, we then, formed a school. Well, it was a cottage school at the time, the School of Universal Light. At first going into different homes. And really when we started the school, it was a couple of friends and myself and my partner and just families coming together to school our children in that way.
Yeah.
It's grown now. It's grown from a cottage school to basically a movement, sort of a magnet school. It's broader, it's wider, and we based in Ocean Park. We've got some satellite schools as well in New Jersey and other parts of the world as well. So we international, especially with COVID. We've had a wider reach as a lot of parents were trying to navigate the whole online schooling thing and trying to find alternatives.
Yeah.
And I think just going through the experience, a lot of people came, it was word of mouth initially when we started. And a lot of it was people looking for alternatives, really. I think the problem that exists in South Africa, we've got a failing school system in many ways, where it's a bit broken and people are looking for different solutions. So I think it wasn't necessarily formed because of that, but we found ourselves filling that gap and also speaking to the needs of, an alternative that people were looking for. So homeschooling, unschooling,
Okay, so the name of your school is the School of Universal Light, Soul.
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes it different to other schools? Obviously, it's different if that's the name of the school. What are your foundations? What are your values as a school? What do you believe in? Firstly, okay, that's question one. Question two, if a child does go to the school, do they get the IEB or the GED or is there an actual qualification that they can use within South Africa? Can they go then to a normal school if they want to? And secondly, what does SOUL stand for? What makes it different?
Okay, so I'll start from the foundation of who we are and what we stand for. So it's really self-directed learning, but very based in ancient wisdom and knowledge, so knowledge of self is very fundamental to what we do. Knowledge of the ancestry and the culture as well. In as much as we are very modern, we draw a lot from the ancient ways of learning where we use mathematics, sciences, and the arts in that way, like the trivium. So it's a system of really processing information and learning to apply it. With a huge base in understanding universal law and just how the universe works and functions. So primarily, as much as we do mathematics and the sciences and the arts, it's just, by the way, the main thing is to produce independent thinking young people who are self-directed and who can own their destiny. And we very much start our day with self-affirmations, with yoga, with self-awareness. So that's the big base of the school. Our guiding principles really are around creation. So I am a creator, I'm a wealth, I'm responsible, I'm better than I was yesterday, I observe, I excel, I transcend, which is really what we live by. So it's to teach young people to be self-directed, to realize they were created in the image of the creator, really. And everything that they want to actualize is within themselves. So the wealth and the responsibility, that's where that comes in. And also realizing that you're evolving and getting better as you go along, but that you can also transcend all of that. You can observe and you can learn and you can be in the world and transcend all of that and reach your highest state of being. So that's really the driving principle. And then in terms of the curriculum, so we've created our own curriculum. We do have an online school, but since COVID has opened up a little bit, we also do face-to-face, which is what happened few months when things opened up a little bit. So we came back into school, but we're doing blended learning now with online as well as home-based as well. And a big part of it is the participation from the parents. So because it is homeschooling is primarily based on the fact that the parent is the first teacher.
Yeah.
So it's really about, your child better than any teacher would know that child. You have actually everything within you to actually support that child. So really our premise is to journey with the parents and the young people in their journey to define a way for them to learn better. So we become primarily a support system, and what we like to say is it's one thing, it's one thread. So what's happening at school should also happen at home. None of this like you just put your kids at school and hope that the teachers do a job and you hope that they get a good grade at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then incidentally, we're talking about grades. We don't necessarily focus on grades. It's more of applied learning, where it's about project-based and understanding, like I said, we spoke about universal law. So even if we do mathematics, we do science, we do the arts, it's got to be related to how you apply it in the world. It's not just random formulas that you are learning and regurgitating, but it's how do I apply this mathematics now? How do I see science alive in everyday living? How do I practicalize and make learning fun, but also very practical and centered on human life and experiences, really. And that's really the premise of what we do. So for me, it's always about like, can I teach my kids the thing? If I see that you have a specific thing that you already are drawn to, how do I then harness that and actually draw and mine that rather than try to force you to do something that's not in you? So the main thing with all the children is to really look at what it is that they already have, because already they come with a lot of wisdom, and then work on that wisdom. But also being aware that it does change and it's flexible and children grow and evolve. And how do you then stay abreast of that journey and support that child's learning ability as a parent, as a guide, not necessarily as
You're breaking, Mama. You're breaking.
Hey,
You're breaking. Can you please repeat that last sentence?
So it's really about how do I, as a parent, support the learning journey of my child in whatever direction they choose to go. With that emphasis that I'm just a guide, I'm here to do this journey for you. And what's also been interesting for me particularly, even with things like mathematics, where I didn't think I'm a math person, is having to unlearn and relearn patterns and to say, actually, there isn't such a thing. It's just what we are told about mathematics or sciences. It's really about really opening yourself up to relearn everything. So as I journey with my kids in the homeschooling journey, I'm also like going back to school and doing math, doing science, getting excited about learning, So it's been a journey for me of self-discovery as well. And learning that I don't always have the answers, and I can say to my kids, I actually don't know what this is. So let's Google it together and let's look at it. Let's look at a video maybe. Let's ask this one. Let's ask the other. It's really about a partnership with your kids.
So when we were speaking the other day, you happened to mention that you're not with the father of your kids anymore, but you guys are co-living, and that your school is in the family house that you guys live in. How have you been able to navigate that? How is it that you were able, because I'm assuming you prioritized your children in making that decision. I'm assuming that you didn't stay together because you want to stay with your ex. You know. So I just want to know how is it that you guys are successfully navigating that? Because I think a lot of people struggle to co-parent from afar. You know, you guys are living under the same roof, running a business together, which is why I called your segment "My Children, My Business." You know, because it's a business, it's parenting, it's living with the ex, it's, you know, what is it? What is it about the two of you that you were able to find the middle and to find harmony, to be able to actually go forward with that decision and provide a space in which your children are healthy, they're emotionally stable, etc., etc.?
Sure, Fali. It's very loaded, and it's actually a work in progress constantly. I don't think that we have it right entirely, but we're doing our best. I think for me, I can speak for my part to say that at some stage of my life, I had to say, what is priority? What are the stakes? Yeah. And what is it that I want to see? And for me, what was important was just the legacy, the legacy of learning, of giving my children an opportunity to be in the school of what I call my school of my dreams, really. A school I would have wanted to attend as a young person. So that became priority for me. But also it's been interesting living as a family, in a very coexistence, but also very separate in some way. It's sometimes sort of like had a paradigm shift. I'm still navigating a lot, Vanessa, and your previous conversation really touched a lot of nerves even with me to see, oh my goodness, some of these things trigger certain things. And I realized that in this existence, there are so many things that we have to sort through.
Yeah.
But at the time when I took the decision, for me, what was key was just my children being, prioritized, being also stable, having an environment where they can learn and be with both parents.
Yeah.
Showing up, and quite fortunate that once I, as much as it exchanges because of different life situations, they definitely have one parent present at any given time. So, I mean, kudos to the father of my kids who's been, especially on the learning part. So we hold different abilities and capabilities. He's more the math science kind of person, biochemist kind of person, wired that way, analytical. And I think I come in on the other side where I support more of, the life learning kind of vibe. And how I chose to go about their learning experiences was to create learning journeys and experiences for them where, because it's also from another continent in a different country, I had to also tag along with my kids to show them the journey of this is in Africa right now, and things like language started to matter for me. Things like what does family mean? Certain values that are African. I would make sure that I expose them to those kind of experiences and create learning even just outside of a classroom. So that for me became more my directive, but also we understand supporting each other. So what he's done, I either do that, but do it in my own way. And for me, because at the time I was a 9-to-5 mom, I had to find a way of making learning practical and feasible and possible within the confines of what I had in terms of time and my availability and all of that. So it's always, it's a learning thing, buddy. And I hope to document my journey as I go along. I'm not saying one, also the whole model of homeschooling isn't a cookie cutter, because you even realize that with each of your children, you can't even approach teaching mathematics the same. Or explaining certain concepts the same way. So as a parent, it's the flexibility an openness to say, I want to learn myself. I'm open to learn. So if this is not working, let me try that. It's very experimental, and that's really the approach that I've taken to do. So in summing it up, I think they are lucky in that sense that they've got a very steady balance of the father figure in a very structured kind of way, because of just how he's wired. And me being, I sometimes look at myself as like, very, well, I wouldn't say artistic, but like more artistic perhaps. I've given them that lens of life as well to also draw from, and the exposure of a wider family, the understanding that everybody is like there's a whole ecosystem around my children. I've got aunts, like right now I'm in Durban. I'm with their favorite aunt, Makoto Mposi, who's just been a phenomenal support to me and my family, throughout this journey. And she teaches my kids that very, I don't even know, like humaning, how to be compassionate. That's what she draws from Ukoko Makoto, So those little things, conversation. So Kwezi is very much a conversation person, and she knows when she's with Koko Makoto. All about conversations, it's talking books, it's talking this. So she encourages that, and I'm so fortunate that I have friends who are like that, who are open and journeying with me. So, quite lucky in that sense, but it's also what we create. There's so many people who've added to my life, who've made me richer. So, with each of those experiences, growing from them and also exposing them to that, I think there's so much that they can, draw from and take from and learn from.
Yeah, phenomenal. Mpumi, thank you so much. I think why I felt it was important to speak to you is because I think that we were so focused on our children's education, but we're not focused enough on our children's spirits, and I just think it's really beautiful that you've created a space where you're not only nurturing your children's spirits, but other people's children's spirits as well. So I feel like there are probably people who would like to know how to reach you. I hadn't even asked Boyd how we followed her. You're gonna need to forgive me. It's show number 2. How can people reach you if they want more information about the school, or how do they reach you? Social media, phone number, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. So you can check us out on www.schoolofuniversallight, all one word, lowercase.com. So that's our website. It's got basically everything about, how to register, how to find us, how to connect with us. I've also got a Facebook page called School of Universal Light on Facebook, and basically any one of those ways they can really connect with us. And we would be happy to assist. Sometimes it's not even getting people to join our school, but like just to assist them to start. And that's one of the main things that I get almost on a daily, where people are wanting to start and are wanting to take this journey of self-learning and discover with their kids. It is more of just really shifting the minds of the parents more than anything, because children are so receptive. It's us who have to unlearn and relearn and then do, and then just step into this new reality or this new way of being and just watch what emerges, and unlearn constantly, because remember, we come from the old way of, and, there's a trajectory that's mapped out, and we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world where people need to self-define and make work, and I think even this time of the pandemic has really shown us that we can't be reliant on jobs. We can't be reliant on being employed by somebody else, but we have to hold our own destiny and start new things and use what God gave us, our God-given talent. You might take it in, and even if you're great at like speaking, look at you, but it's like I just want to speed you up. Your voice, using the power of your voice to touch people's lives. It's something more phenomenal. So it's really been a blessing to be invited to the show and to actually see you in the spotlight. I am just, halala, Popo, halala,
Thank you, baby. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're doing really important work. You will be blessed for it. You're definitely walking in your purpose. And I'd just like to say I appreciate you. 30 minutes have gone by. I'm supposed to be done, but I'm not done. I still got more to do. But thank you so much, Mpumi. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for everything. I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And yeah, God bless.
Thank you so much, Polly. Thank you for
Okay.
having me on the show.
All right, honey.
I
Bye-bye.
share.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Wow.
Before we, there is I. Married to Me with Popo takes a provocative look at our idea of self and family in the 21st century.
Okay, so I had forgotten to ask Boyd about how you can reach her. I am so sorry. Show number 2, give me a break. Boyd, how can we reach you before you leave the building?
So before I leave the building, if anyone was wanting to come through for therapy sessions, we do have a holistic wellness practice in Parktown North. And the number that you can call or WhatsApp is 061 825 3588, and you can call or WhatsApp on there. And then on social media, it's Boitumelo Boikhutso on Facebook, and on Instagram, it's Boikhutso.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As we get into our last segment, the last segment is... Okay, my last segment isn't playing.
I said what I said.
I said what I said. So last week, I put out a statement and asked for people's opinions. The statement was, I would prefer that my children have their first drink in my house. I got a number of opinions, which I'm going to share a few of them. This segment really isn't about what my opinion is. I think you all know what my opinion is. I spoke about myself at length last week, and really the show isn't about me. It's about all of us. So the first one, I'm not going to read people's names. I'm just going to read what their opinions were. The first was, because wow, we were never recorded. Living in the digital age means everything is in full digitalization mode. So rather, let's get you to understand your drink tolerance at home than on the streets. And then there was a lady who shared quite a long one with me. I really appreciated it. She's definitely older than I am. And I think she had one opinion at some point, and then her opinion changed. She said, my son was in private school. He used to bring Salter-Pain bottles, cough mixture. When I asked, he said they were for art. He would sleep from school until the following day. He started being disrespectful from school and home. Apparently, they were mixing Salter-Pain with Sprite to make them high, emulating Lil Wayne. I only caught a wake-up call, excuse me, when he was writing prelims, when the school called me to say he couldn't even walk. I took him to the doctor on the day, and he was asked to take a urine test. He left the doctor's rooms without us being aware. I had to sit him down to find out what he wants. Now he is smoking weed and cigarettes, and I am aware. She definitely asked to remain anonymous, but I think her point was, if she had been more open with him before, it probably wouldn't have gotten to the extent that it did. Someone else said, yes, I would prefer this. I have a very close relationship with my child and encourage him to be honest with me without feeling like he will be attacked for it. The reality is that children and teens are super curious and will have their first drink underage. It has been like that for centuries. By letting them drink at home, I have control of how much, as well as how they respond to alcohol. It's a safe environment. He won't have to be driven home by a drunk friend or get his drink roofied. He can also figure out what alcohol agrees with him and which doesn't from the safety of home. As parents, especially Black ones, we need to engage more with our kids and come down from the high parental pedestal we have placed ourselves upon before we turn around and say kids misbehave and have no discipline when they drink. That behavior can be monitored and rectified at home before my son even starts drinking outside. And then there was, I don't think I have the best response. Guys, I'm going to read as many as I can, okay? But I cannot read all of them every week. I just want to say that I appreciate your engagement. I appreciate your sharing your opinions. That is the point of this platform. I don't think I have the best response, but I agree. If I hypothetically had a child, I'd much rather them having alcohol first in my house and around me so they don't lose their heads when they try it elsewhere. That, and also so they trust me and not feel the need to be secretive. And then there was, this may already be too late for the recording, but I agree with the statement to the extent that I want to remove the stigma and mystery around alcohol in my household, so that by the time my above 18 years old child, okay, so this person's being specific about being of age, has unlimited access to alcohol, then there isn't the excitement that comes with the access. I certainly won't get shit-faced with my kid, but we can enjoy a beer or a glass of wine together over a meal ever so often. I want to model what healthy and moderate versus binge drinking looks like. And then there was one individual who said, I completely disagree with allowing children to have alcohol at home. Firstly, the home is supposed to be a safe environment devoid of worldly influences. Secondly, you never know if your child might have an addictive gene in them, and here you are being the very person feeding it to them. As parents, we need to give our kids some form of structure so that when they go out into the world, they will handle decisions to take alcohol with caution and not easily gravitate to a dependency on substances. Parenting is not easy, and we need to realize that we are not here to be our children's friends, but rather guide them and keep them safe from whatever dangers may arise in navigating adulthood. So a huge array of opinions. But I think people are changing in that. It's not really like a no anymore. I think people are beginning to see and feel the value of more openness with their kids and relationships. I know for a fact that I definitely feel like my children are safer when I know what they're doing. Do you have an opinion on this? How do you think you'll raise your kids when you have them?
Look, I already know a point of reference with my nieces and nephews. And before they were even 18, I was like, look, little young ones, this is how it's going to roll. I'm going to be that rahadi where in crisis and anything, I need you to know that I'm open and you guys have access. So I was like, guys, if you're going to drink, again, I'd prefer that you do it at home. I need to see how you are when you do, as you know, one of the people said, get shit-faced at the end of the day. So I'm all for that. I'm all for exposure in a safe environment, educating people at the end of the day. And I know the other person was like, I'm not going to enable that behavior. It's not about enabling that behavior, but it's literally opening it up because, again, like one of the other comments said, it kills that, that excitement and people just going ham, in varsity or after high school. So I'm definitely all for creating that environment. If they want to taste, or you're going, well, this is what beer tastes like, this is what wine tastes like, and really just they end up kind of being a bit more desensitized in terms of just going out there and going crazy with it. So I'm definitely all for controlled environments, a safe person, so a family member that exposes a person or a child at the end of the day. And we're talking about teenagers now, obviously, guys. So I'm definitely for
it.
Not
11-year-olds.
Yeah, not 11-year-olds. Please, 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 please.
I have literally gone completely over time. So let me quickly say what the statement is for next week. Guys, please comment on social media. Go to our Your Media page, Your Media Essay on Instagram, on Facebook. I am Ms__ Popo 207 on Instagram. On Facebook, I am Balesa Popo Maheta. Next week, the statement is, people in open relationships just want to be promiscuous. Basically, they just want to dala. I'm not going to express my opinion on this. I'd like to know what you guys think. But thank you again for joining me this week for the second episode of Married to Me with Popo. I will see you all again next week, Thursday, with a new installment and more exciting guests. And I was going to say good night, but I don't know what time you'll be listening. So God bless. Take care.
There is I. Married to Me with Popo takes a provocative look at our idea of self and family in the 21st century.